Welcome back, guys. Today we were calculating the mean, median, and mode of group data. In our last video, we were able to calculate mean, median, and mode of group data. To calculate mean, median, mode of group data, there are two ways to do it. You can calculate it by the use of formula, and you can also calculate it by the use of graph. So today we're going to be calculating our mean, median, mode with the use of formulas. And there are different kinds of formula used in calculating the mean, the mode, and the median of group data. So now before we dive into using these formulas, the first thing to do is to create your frequency distribution table. And your frequency distribution table is going to have the class interval, which is our question. It's going to have the x, should I say the class mark? Yes. Now the class mark is the addition of the lower class boundary to the upper class boundary, then you divide it by 2. I know you'll be asking me what's the lower class boundary and what's the higher class boundary. And the lower class boundary is the beginning number in our interval. Then the upper class boundary is the ending number. Then the other set of number is the beginning number of the ending number to the next number that will begin the next set of number in our given data. So once we already have our class boundary here because it's from 2 to 4. The next data was from 4 to 6. But in a case where you have a series of number in your class interval, let's say 2 to 3, then the next set was 4 to 6, then the next set was 7 to, and you see that there's no boundary between them. So that's when you now compute your class boundary. So to compute your class boundary, you will move 0.5 from the lower number, then add it to the upper number, which that is move 0.5 from the lower class interval, then add it up to the upper class interval. So you see that there will not be a boundary between them. But in this our question, there's already a boundary in our question, so we don't need to create any class boundary. The next thing on our list will be the frequency. The frequency of our given data. The next is our fx, which is frequency multiplied by the class mark. Then once you multiply it, the next is to get your cumulative frequency. So let's create our distribution table. Now these are frequency distribution table with class mark. When you add up the two class interval, which is 2 plus 6 to give you, which is 2 plus 4 to give you 6. If you divide it by 2, you have 3. Then if you go to the next, 4 plus 6 divided by 2, you have 5. 6 plus 8 divided by 2, you have 7. 10 plus 8 divided by 2, you have 9. 10 plus 12 divided by 2, you have 11. This is your class mark. And the frequency is, the first frequency was 3, second is 4, third is 6, the other is 7, the last is 2. Now your fx, this with the multiplication of your class mark and your frequency. That is, which is 3 times 3 give us 9, 4 times 5 give us 20, 7 times 6 give us 42. 9 times 7 give us 63. 11 times 2 give us 22. Now the cumulative frequency here is with 9. You are adding up the results to the next frequency. What's the first frequency in our class mark? Is 3. Then to get the next cumulative frequency, you have to add up this 3 to the next frequency. That is, to get your cumulative frequency, you add up this 3 that you have in your cumulative frequency to the next frequency, which is 3 in addition to 4. So you have 3 plus 4, it should give you 7. Then this 7 that you got, add it up to the next frequency, which is 7 plus 6 to give you 13. Then the 13 plus the next frequency, which is 7. So you have 13 plus 7 to give you 20. Then this 20, add it up to the next frequency, which is 20 plus 2 to give you 22. Then the next thing to do now is to add up all your frequency to get your summation F. So your summation F will be the total of all frequencies. The total of all frequencies here is 3 plus 4 plus 6 plus 7 plus 2 will give us 22. Then you also add up your total fx to get your summation fx. Now when you add up all your fx, to give you 156. So the first thing to do now is to get your mean. And to get mean of group data, it's going to be summation fx divided by summation f divided by summation f, which will give us, what's our summation fx? 156 divided by 22. So if you divide 156 by 22, give you a result of 7.0909. Then if you approximate it, approximation is going to give you 7.09. That is the mean of this data. Next is to get your mode. Now to get mode of mean data is going to be the lower class boundary of the median class. These are what each of these formula means. Our LMO is our lower class boundary of our model class. Our changing one is our model class minus frequency of the class before the model class. Then our changing 2 is our model class minus frequency after the model class, while C is our model class size. Now if you look at your frequency distribution table, then go through the frequency. What's the highest number in our frequency? And the highest number in our frequency is 7. So the row of the frequency, which is, if the frequency is 7, what is the class interval of our frequency? And the class interval for our frequency is 8 to 10. So in our class interval, we have the upper class boundary and the lower class boundary. Now between 8 to 10, what is the lower class boundary? The lower class boundary is 8. So which means our LMO is 8. Now our change in 1 is the modal class, which is our 7, minus the number before our modal class, which is 6, which is 7 minus 6. We have 1, which is our change in 1. Then our change in 2 is 7, which is our modal class, minus the class after the modal class, which is 2. So when you subtract your modal class 7 from 2, you're going to have a result of 5. Then our C is the difference between the upper class boundary from the lower class boundary. Now we all know that the right hand side of our class interval is the upper class boundary, while the left hand side is the lower class boundary. So when you might subtract any of the upper class boundary from their lower class, you get your class width. So let's work with the first set, which is 4 minus 2. You have 2 as a class width. So input your formula. So your mode will be our LMO. Our LMO here is our lower class boundary from molar class. We already know our molar class are 7. So the lower class boundary is going to be 8. 8 in addition to changing 1. Now changing 1 was our molar class boundary minus 6, which is 1. 1 divided by our upper class boundary, our change in 2, which is our upper class boundary, which is our modal class minus minus the class after the modal class, which is 7 minus 2, which will give you 5. Should give you 5. That's how I'm changing 2. But our formula here is saying that you need to add your change in 1 to your change in 2. So what's our change in 1? 1 in addition to 5. Then you multiply it by your class width. Your class width was the upper class boundary minus the lower class boundary, which gave us 2. So you move ahead. And the first thing to do now is to solve for your brackets. Now how do you solve for your brackets? Now we have 1 divided by 1 plus 5. First thing to do is to add up 1 plus 5. You add up 1 plus 5, I'm going to have 6, which is 1 over 6. Then multiply by 2. And if you keep going, we have not solved for the bracket. We are not done with the brackets. The next thing to do now is to divide it by, which is 1 divided by 6. So 1 divided by 6 is 0.1. So you're going to have 8 in addition to 1 divided by 6 is 0.167 to give you 0.333. Then you add up 8 to the results, which is 0.333. If you add up 8 to the result you get is 8.3. So which means your mode is 8.3. Next thing to do now is to get our frequency, to get our median. And to get your median, you use the formula LME plus n into bracket n divided by 2 plus summation of FME all divided by FME, then close brackets, multiply all through by C. Now what's LME? LME is our lower class boundary of our median class. N is the total number of items in data set, which is the total frequency. Then summation of FME, that is the summation of all frequencies before the median class. We have our FME, which is frequency of the median class. And have our C, which is our median class size or width. And the first thing to do now is to get our position. And to get a position, you divide the n by 2, which is the summation of all frequencies, by 2. Now frequency is 22. That is, our total frequency is 22. If you divide it by 2, you have 11. And the next thing to do now is to locate your frequency, your position. Now, how do you locate your position? You locate your position through the cumulative frequency. Now, if you look at cumulative frequency, there is no 11 in our cumulative frequency. So, which means for you to get your position, it must be a number greater than 11. But there are three numbers greater than 11, which is 13, 20, and 22. And we need an exact number that will be our position. Now, for you to get your position, 11 must be greater than a number before that number can be greater than 11 to get your position. So 11 is greater than 7, but 13 is greater than 11. So which means our position is 13. So all the rows in the 13 is our position. So the rows from the class interval 6 to 8 down to 13 is our position. So which means our LME is our lower class boundary of the median class is 6. In our class interval 6 to 8 is 6. Then our frequency of the median class is 6. Then the summation of the frequency before the median class is in our median class is 6. What are the frequency before our median class? Which was 4 and 3. If you add the two up, you have 7. Then our C is 8 minus 6. You have 2. So the next thing to do now is to compute all these numbers is to get the value of each of these alphabets. Now our LM is 6, which I've said, to our position, and divide n over 2 is 22 divided by 2, which is 22. Then FM is 3 plus 4, which is 7. Then our FM, sorry, this is minus. Then our FM is 6, then the C is 2. So the next thing to do now is, okay, our LM is 6 plus into brackets 11, which is our n divided by 2, minus our summation, which is 7, all divided by 6. Before you multiply by 2, first thing to do is to solve before the brackets. Now, so for the brackets, we're going to have 11 minus 7 is 4. If you divide 4 by 6, you're going to have a result of 0.667. Then multiply it by 2. If you multiply it by 2, you're going to have a result of 6 in addition to. Then when we multiply it by 2, we have 1.333. Then if you add 6 to 1.333, you have a result of 7.333. That is your median. So thank you for watching. See you in the next video, and please do well to subscribe, like, share to your colleagues that is having a hard time understanding the whole concept of the measure of central tendency of group data. Now, the other method of solving central tendency of group data is graphically, which we will do in subsequent videos. So thank you. See you in the next video.